Good morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scouser's Morning Coffee or Tea. I am your host, as always. Good morning, and Trevor's with us this morning. Trevor, what's happening, man?
Not too much. Prepping for the game today.
Is there a special prep that Trevor does on a game day like this?
Trying to figure out just planning the rest of my morning so it all gets done before I just drive and hopefully don't come home very sorrowful.
Yeah, I mean, I have like ridiculous, stupid superstitions, like moving during the game or nobody move because everything is going good, whatever, like stupid things like that, but not like a necessarily a prep aside from what you said, especially since I work from home, like wrap up to work. So when the game starts, I don't have to worry about anything else, kind of a deal. But okay, so let's look at a couple of headlines and we'll come back to the game, do our kind of like a preview at the same time. Alan is with us as always. Good morning, chaps. Good morning, Alan. Long time no see. And Daz is with us as well this morning. Good morning, Daz. So one of the biggest headlines that I saw this morning, and it's kind of like I'm sure there's going to be a lot more going into it, but this whole thing in Indonesia, there's like a huge investigation now. I don't know if it's because of Hillsborough, I mean, you name it, an incident. I don't know if any of us have as much trust in these investigations, sadly, due to the politics and all that kind of shit that goes behind them. Usually they find a couple of peons to shove the blame on. But I think the biggest thing basically they're probably looking at is, I understand the fans stormed the field, so they fire tear gas, but why would they fire it into the stands if I'm assuming you're trying to get rid of the people who invaded the field, and a lot of them, and there's like a lot of kids obviously that are involved. I mean, when you have so many people die, it's just like a horrendous incident, and it's like whichever way you look, it looks like everybody's at fault.
Yeah, not the great, and as always with these things, a lot more and probably worse details are going to come out over time. But so far, it just looks awful. It was a stadium over capacity, 38,000 seats, 42,000 people were thought to be in there. That's already a problem. I get a lot of places, if there's demand, will sell standing room, but they were trying to say that there was 42,000 people in 38,000 seats. There was not like standing room or anything. It was just people on top of people, which at that point is always going to be an issue. And then the team that's, from what I read, the team that was losing was the one that had their supporters storm the pitch as kind of like a just, I don't know, violent protest of their team being bad. I've never seen that, where you always see it, at least here in the States, in like celebratory fashion. They go tear down the goalposts after a college football game or something like that, or they storm the court after you beat a top ranked team in basketball. Those happen very frequently, and while they are annoying and dangerous, they're usually done out of joy rather than of just pure bent on destruction, which is, I think, why the police took the action that they did. But to go back to your point, why would you fire in the people that are in their seats rather than the people that are running onto the field and being destructive and being just angry? And I don't get the thought process behind it, because it doesn't seem like there was much thought to it.
Probably. Good morning, Chris. Chris is with us as well. So, I mean, I'll be honest, like when I see those, like college games where they like storm the field and stuff, I am really amazed. Not obviously anything of this scope happening. I mean, it's not going to be a stampede because, like you say, it's more of a joy thing when that happens. But I'm amazed that there is not a lot more of like confrontations happening on the field. And I think it would take, I'll see, like, because maybe because I'm a sore loser, or the way I'm wired during a game, right before a game, right after a game, is if I just lost and people are storming and probably saying shit to me as I'm leaving the field, I'm saying probably something back or whatever. And, I'm not built like a linebacker. Never was, even in my back day. So when you're like, like you see these football games and the guy is like running by, this drunk college kid running by like linebackers and talking shit to them as they're leaving the field because the other team lost. I'm just amazed one of these linebackers just don't pull a Bobby Wagner from yesterday, for example,
Oh
when he just
yeah,
like clobbered the
yeah.
guy that like ran onto the field.
I have a actual anecdote of the time that I was a bit petulant in that regard. I went to go see Syracuse play Providence, and Syracuse was ranked, and I was a few rows behind the Syracuse bench, and they were not playing well, and I was uh, being very vocal about a certain player that was not doing great. If any of my friends see this, they'll know exactly who I'm talking about. But after the game, Providence won, and a bunch of people stormed the court, and a bunch of really just and more inebriated than me for some reason, college kids came through, and they were just like flipping me off. And one kid decided to try to dump a beer on me. I tripped him, and he just ate the gate that they were trying to all run through to get on the court, and just like six people behind him just all ate shit as well, which was, uh, petulant. And at the time, I really didn't care. But
The
looking back, I'm
violent
like,
days of Trevor over here.
yeah. Looking back though, I'm like, this could have been so much worse if it was a lot more people behind him, because it just would have been dominoes down very thin stairs. And yeah, okay, a couple of drunk kids get hurt. That's a much different story than the
Yeah.
one that's happening in Indonesia. But it's something where all it takes is one person in that panic to just go, no, I'm thinking of myself before all of you, trip one person, and then they all fall into
Yeah.
the gas, and I don't know the stadium layout, and then just people run over them to get out. There's a lot of issues that could come from just, yeah,
I mean,
one
I'm not
possible
sure like
domino.
how new of a stadium it is, how high end of a stadium it is, but I mean, heck, even a high end stadium, it takes a while to empty out. Because so
Yeah,
in a panic mode where everybody is rushing to the exits. So basically, by putting the tear gas into the
yeah,
stands, they pushed everybody out of the stands. I mean, that's what doesn't make sense. So you're either saying, come down here where you're trying to get rid of them, or you're like pushing into the exits basically. And as people like trying to exit, I mean, I've been back in the day some crappy stadiums in Turkey, for example. I mean, on a normal day when people are
yeah,
normally trying to get out, it's a pain in the ass and you're getting semi crushed. So when something like that happens, obviously it's like 50 times worse. And it's no shock that something like this is going to happen. Why there were more people, it's just like, when something like happens, it's just freaking sad because all these people are gone and they're not coming back regardless of what happens.
yeah.
But aside from
125.
that, I think we just don't have a lot of confidence that the guys that really should be getting punished, maybe more responsible in the grand scheme of things, kind of skate away with it, and they'll find one peon cop that started 6 months ago and was like, what are we doing, firing these? Okay, got it. And then they'll like throw that guy under the bus. But that's like the cynical old man in me saying that. Hopefully it turns out better than that. But I mean, do you have a lot of hope? And I mean, you're right though. I think we're gonna find out a lot of horrific details on this as we go.
Yeah, because the in with anything, the authorities that really pushed through it, and it seems it was a lot of greed in that regard of trying to just maximize the amount of people, the amount of mouths that they could get in there, and just consume as much as they could, and hoping that nothing would go wrong, instead of thinking what could go wrong if something did, like
Yeah.
how to respond if something did go wrong, when you made those choices beforehand to put the stadium over capacity and put what seems to be very inexperienced people in terms of security going through a, a very hostile process that they probably weren't properly trained for. If Yeah,
if at all. I mean,
I don't even want to say probably. If you're firing
Yeah.
tear gas at children in response to a pitch invasion, you weren't trained properly. I'm just going to put that way.
But when something like that happens, I mean, I don't know
basically
how many of these guys are ever trained that. I mean, usually, I know at least back home, and I think like throughout Europe, really. I mean, they're basically cops. So, I mean, when somebody, you know, like this last weekend, it was Beşiktaş against Fenerbahçe in Istanbul. So I'm sure they had like freaking, you know, it's like what Vodafone is like 50,000 or something like that. So you got to get at least like 5,000 cops or something like that to handle that bullshit in case a fight breaks up with like Fenerbahçe fans or something like that. And they're just basically cops, trained to be cops, trained to control stuff. They don't, you know, not specifically for this job. And I mean, over here, even I've seen, I went to a Chicago Fire game and I was, you know, security searched, like they even look at the car. I've never seen something stupid. It's so some of the security stuff. If you've ever been in like Europe and, you know, like, and obviously Istanbul, Turkey, you know, as I was growing up, there's like so much like terrorism and stuff like that. If you were in like an Ireland and stuff like that, you know, like when there was a lot of stuff happening with IRA, like things exploding, shit like that. And you kind of know how the security stuff should go. So when you see some of the comical security things that they do over here, so like we went to a Fire game going into the Soldier Stadium. He searched under the car, which is fine and dandy, like with like the magnet thing to see if I had something under the car, but then they never looked inside the car. So what the fuck is the point of that? Like if I have something in the trunk, you have no, I could have like 10 dead bodies in the trunk. You would not know. But if I had something under the car, you were well aware of that. And it's like, you know, like these 18, 19-year-old kids doing a part-time gig, like they're not really.
It's that where they just pick and choose what they are, what process they have to do to just kind of keep the line
on his phone, you know, checking his Snapchats. The other one is looking under my car and shit like that. So ultimately, you know, none of these people are, especially here, but even back home, like they're just cops. They're not ready for something like this. That's when it goes to, I think, people more higher up with systems in place when something like that happens, because you know the personnel you're going to have doing the job, but obviously they did not in this case. But yeah, you're right, we'll probably find out more. It was like a headline I kind of wanted to get to yesterday, but with the weekend and stuff like that, there was a lot going on, so we never got around to the news, and there's more news this morning, so I figured like
and even with one more day, more stuff has come out, and it's
exactly,
it's only going to get worse, unfortunately.
So hopefully something that will be a lot better is today's game. We were talking yesterday. I mean, I don't think it's kind of like a shot in the dark right now, trying to come up with a starting 11, you know, based on like minutes and injury, or, you know, like, but some of these guys didn't play the weekend. So you almost expect anybody who didn't play the weekend or played like a really short stint to play a major role in this one. Do you have a starting 11 in mind? Because we could not agree on a lot of players yesterday when we were like talking on the podcast with Gally and Bickler.
Yeah, it's something where I've tried to, the same as what you guys were talking about last night. I've tried in so many different fashions to come up with something that I think works for everybody in terms of getting players in that need time, getting players out that need rest, but also fielding a competitive side. And with the way the injury report is right now for them, I don't know who's going to be entirely available for like even more than like 45 minutes. For some reason, it's just stayed kind of in stasis of, all right, this guy is, it feels like I'm a fantasy football player sitting here just going, just tell me if the guy's going to play. Just tell me if he's going to play. But more of just, I want to know what I'm going to see on the field. I don't care about the fantasy repercussions of it. I just want to be able to, in my head, formulate a lineup that I could potentially see.
Or at least like narrow down the options where you can be like, is it going to be Bobby or is it going to be Nunez and things? We're like, it could be anybody. Because I think like Nunez is probably one of the bigger question marks. I mean, I think there are certain players, maybe like let's look at a couple of certain players and go that way. Like Nunez is one. I mean, based on the explanation Klopp gave in terms of why he didn't play longer minutes against Brighton, it was the fact that he could not go more than 15, 20 minutes at max when he came back with like a slight hamstring issue. And therefore they were being, careful. They put him in last minute. Well, I mean, if you were only able to play 15, 20 minutes 3 days ago, I assume you're not ready to go 90 in 3 days, would be my guess. And he also mentioned about having a sit down with Nunez, like along with Pep being the semi-translator / coach guy. And that also tells me, like you're telling him, like, be patient. We're not worried. You shouldn't be worried either, kind of thing. It's almost like, yeah, he's not going to be able to feature either. They're more telling him to be patient. Don't be impatient to go out there and, pull your hammy and now you're out and, for like an extended period of time. So that's going to be interesting to see. I don't see him starting just based on the other information. Or that would make me think the other information is bullshit, by the way, if you were only able to 15 minutes. The other name that comes to mind is Trent. Does he play Trent just so that Trent can play himself out of the funk, get an assist, etc., to kind of like get some of his confidence back? Or does he perhaps put Gomez there and says, Trent, why don't you just take a week off, get ready for Arsenal?
I really think it should be that where you get Konate in the lineup and you push Gomez out right. And yeah, if it's something where late in the game, it's maybe 1-1 or something, and you want to get Trent in there for set pieces, and he has that chance to build himself up that way, great. But I really think the back line is the one that needs the most work. I'd probably sit Virgil too. You guys were talking about that last night. Probably go Konate and Matip, and then Gomez out right, and Tsimikas out left with Robbo still out.
That's where I'm scared, because I do want Virgil to get some rest too, but not at the expense of Matip not getting rest, because let's face it, he's a lot more fragile. We kind of forget that. So, and obviously then if you're resting both of them, then you're fresh out of center backs and you probably are not able to rest Trent. So that's where the issue comes in. So let's go to midfield. We couldn't get anywhere with defense. So let's go to midfield. I mean, who do you see in midfield? I would think out of the people who played a major role over the weekend, I'm thinking Fab is the only guy who can maybe go again. But do you even do that knowing, like I say, we have we do a big game coming out this weekend, but we do get, I mean, it's kind of helps when it's a Tuesday game. It sucks for the game before, but I think it helps the game after, because you get a longer time.
I think you're right. This has to be a Harvey game, because Rangers are not a super offensive firepower team where we're going to ask him to do a lot of dropping back and a lot of just chasing defensively. So I think that'll be helpful to get him in. And please, if you're going to do that for this instance, don't take him out at halftime. Let him just go the full time and just save the bodies for Arsenal at this point. He's got to learn somehow. And if you pull him off at the first chance you get every time there's something like this, and you can't do this against Rangers, then when are you ever going to give him a full run? That being said, I agree that Fabinho is probably the guy that stays in from that. Maybe, you do a Harvey Hendo, and Thiago could be that guy late game to shore it up if you want those subs to come in like the 75th, 80th minute. Just a guy that can be a steady hand for those final moments if it's necessary. But the midfield, I think, is something where we go back is, all right, can we throw Naby in there and not have to worry? Is Arthur even useful at this point? Probably not.
I really am expecting an appearance by Arthur today. Sadly, knowing Klopp is probably going to be after 80th minute or something like that, but I think we do see him out there today, and I would like to see him in more of a like that closing role you talk about. I mean, in some ways, I would like to see him go in there instead of maybe like a Thiago, to get Thiago more rest, or maybe handle more rest. Because I think if you do play Hando and Thiago today after having them play this weekend, you're almost probably saying like, okay, you guys are gonna total 90. Who takes 60? Who takes 30? Kind of thing, and go about it that way. I don't think you play either one of them for 90 minutes, because Hando does not. I mean, we were talking about this yesterday. This is like an aging midfield. I think that's like the issue, right? You look across the field, and we're trying to see, we're trying to get some kind of rotation going, and you're so worried about the other guy who's already fragile. And I think this goes back to our criticism yesterday of, relying on so many fragile people at the same time. And some of those fragile people are not even there. They're like injured and not available, like Ox and the Keitas and all those people. So who are supposed to be back later this month, but I just don't see them being available until probably the World Cup. After the World Cup is when we'll see them. And I don't know if we keep Keita over January or get something for him. I mean, if he's not there right now, what are you really losing anyway? Right? I mean, he's not doing anything for you, so at least get something.
It's a dead roster spot.
Yeah, I mean, because when we did it with Genie, for example, you were like, he's a guy that's there every freaking game. He's giving you 90 minutes nonstop every game. So it was like, you know what? It makes sense to hang on to him because he gives value. Same thing with like Emre Can when he was there. It was a guy who was available all the time. But, that's not the case with Keita. I mean, he's gonna maybe play, if you keep him after January, he might make like 5 or 6 appearances. So is that really worth keeping him? No. I know you're not gonna get much for him, but maybe use him in I mean, I know there's a lot of rumors about him and Cashage for like Bellingham kind of thing, but I think that's more like a dream scenario than something else, because how much, if you're throwing Keita in a deal, how much is he really worth?
Yeah, he's not going to take much off that price tag.
Right. I mean, I think maybe like 2025, because you would think if he goes free, now you're kind of competing for his services. So you're probably going to pay more, or, you might not be able to get him like more wages or whatever that, Dortmund is not too keen on either. But I just don't see how much value he brings to any team that will be like, you know what, I'll roll the dice. Are the rumors true that there will be trouble before, after the game from the Rangers support? Well, from what I read and, like stuff that you see, like different tweets, there was already a mural that was defaced, which seems to be like every freaking European, it's like a European game tradition now almost. They're like, which mural are they gonna deface, kind of thing. But what do you think? I mean, there'll be some stuff. I don't know, it would be something major. I think there'll be a bar fight here, bar fight there.
I don't think there's going to be just a massive trying to like overthrow the crowd from Rangers support. One, because I just don't think they would have the amount of people to do so that would travel there, even with the distance. But it's like you were saying, there's which mural are we going to deface? And from the stuff I've seen, what they were doing, like it's not even creative. It's just it's just shitty. It's weak vandalism. If you're going to come in and you're going to go through and try to just make crap out of art, then at least try to be artful about it. But you can't even do that. It's the less I say about Rangers, the better. They just that they don't deserve my time.
You think that makes this game like difference in any way, at least for the players? Or is it just, the fact that it's a European game makes it different than a Premier League game in their like mindset wise?
I think even if it is somebody who's quote unquote a lesser opponent, there's just that European vibe to it, and the stakes that are in play given this group now, with how Ajax can turn it on when they feel like it, and Napoli's running away with it. So this is a game that you have to go, and I don't want to say you have to go throttle Rangers because you're going to need the goals, but it would be helpful. I'm not super enthusiastic about that happening because I think if you try to like run with Rangers, that will give them the only opportunities they'll have to counter on you and get the ball to guys that they wouldn't be able to get if they just had to do build-up play. But yeah, I don't think there's going to be any big ado about this one in terms of scuffles in the crowd more than what you said, just general
just drunk
mild
people fighting.
hooliganism.
I mean, it's a huge, these 2 weeks obviously is going to make or break this group. I mean, what Ajax and Napoli do against each other in those 2 games are key. You would think Rangers will be more than happy with the draw today. I think they're just, Rangers gives me the sense that they're just more like happy to be here kind of a thing in like the Champions League concept. I mean, their probably maybe hope is like being maybe like third. If they could like steal some points, maybe like, you know, here and there
and get that run again.
And you would think, you know, you would need somebody to either like if Napoli wins, for example, both games. I think that's like the only scenario you can see where if Napoli wins both games and, you know, let's say we win the first one and Rangers gets like a draw or something like that at home, or like tries to get something against us at home, that would maybe put him in the conversation. But these 2 match days, if you will, are going to be huge. I mean, I wish they were at different times because I really would like to take a look at that Ajax Napoli game, but obviously that's not going to happen. Maybe do like split screen or something like that and like 2 different screens or some shit. But yeah, it would be a game I would want to watch to see how that's going to go. But I really think Napoli wins that one as well, which actually would help us if we win this game. And then it would make things a bit more easier moving forward because we are going to go to away to Ajax, which actually in some ways could be better than playing home, but we'll see. Quick score prediction for today.
I heard what you guys put up last night. I'm going to just go 2-0. Sit safe. I don't think Rangers will get on the board, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah, I think I went with the same thing yesterday. I think I predicted a clean sheet, which is kind of, you know, shocking, but I think there will be special attention paid to how we defend after like the kind of like what we had over the weekend. I think that's my only thing is like, hopefully that special attention doesn't take away from our like, you know, like attacking courage, I guess, if you will. We don't sit back too much, and I guess it really depends on the lineup, which we have no clue about. That's like a really shocker. I think, you know, seeing this lineup, it will help us as we move forward during the week to predict maybe the Arsenal game. But this one is really, really tough because I would think we would put out our ideal 11 against Arsenal and not worry as much about the Rangers away game and like leave some rotation to that. So I think today's game will be key. I think we'll see Jota out there and stuff like that too. But let's see. It's going to be interesting. Hopefully tomorrow morning when we're talking about this game, and Alex actually might be making his debut appearance on American Scouser TV as well. So 3 of us will hopefully be doing talking about a game that's where things went well.
Smiles on our faces.
Yes. Let's go with that. Well, thanks a lot, Trevor. Thanks a lot, everybody, for like joining this morning. Do the liking, sharing, and all that kind of stuff. And definitely tune in again tomorrow morning. And keep an eye on the channel as well. The fantasy show as well as the Premier League show should be airing on the YouTube channel sometime later today or tomorrow. Have a great Tuesday. Let's go get a win. Take it easy, guys.